of this nature.
Secretary Dave Phillips indicated the big question is how to coordinate.
We have a great university system. We have a tremendous community college system. How do we tile that into our high schools? How do we set a standard in North Carolina that people have access to good training to going into jobs that they are not necessarily coming out of high school with no training, and that a lot of that's happening today. We've got an awareness of companies that they are willing to participate because they want good workers. Therefore, they are willing to get involved in the educational process. We must tie all this together.
State Commerce Secretary Dave Phillips said in Goldsboro last night that the lawsuit in the western part of the state over incentives used to attract new industry is hurting North Carolina. Phillips said certain companies have already been scared off because they don't want to get involved in the lawsuit.
It has hurt North Carolina already. Our competitive sister states, such as Virginia and South Carolina, Georgia, the ones that we compete against every day, they're taking advantage of this, and it's already going to hurt us. And their attitude is that their state members of their legislature and that their leadership are supporting them coming up with new and more innovative incentives. Well, here in North Carolina, we're having a hard time dealing with what we've already got, and this is really going to hurt North Carolina.
State Commerce Secretary Dave Phillips. I'm Bill Justice with Wayne Area News, a copyrighted feature of New Age Communications.
Griffin Oil Company has a long tradition of service with Phillips 66 petroleum products, and Griffin Oil doesn't stop there. Griffin also gives you fast, efficient delivery with radio dispatch trucks. Griffin Oil Company, supplier of Phillips 66 gasolines, diesel fuel, home heating oil, motor oils, and lubricants. The finest products for the home, farm, and industry are just a phone call away. Call Griffin Oil Company at 735-4911. Griffin Oil Company, distributors of Phillips 66 in Goldsboro and Wayne County.
What makes Goldsboro Nissan Oldsmobile this area's fastest growing new car dealer? The answer is simple. Great location on Highway 70 West in Goldsboro. Fantastic selection. Huge discounts plus cash back. Up to $2,000 cash back on new 95 Nissan High Body pickup. $1,800 back on Nissan Quest minivan. $1,500 cash back on new Ultimas. $1,000 back on 95 Maximas. $700 cash back on 95 Nissan Sentra. And $750 cash back on the sporty new 200SX. Goldsboro Nissan Oldsmobile, Highway 70 West in Goldsboro.
Grow old gracefully? Absolutely not. Then the other side of me says, look, honey, you've got a family, a career, responsibility. That's why I save for retirement with U.S. savings bonds. They're safe, guaranteed to grow, and easy to afford and buy. I get U.S. savings bonds at work or at the bank. Hey, I don't plan to slow down. But I'm not going to take chances with my retirement money.
U.S. savings bonds.
It's going to be a hot, muggy afternoon across the area with partly cloudy skies. High temperatures in the upper 80s and lower 90s. For tonight, partly cloudy skies much of the night. We could see some fog forming, though, toward daybreak on Friday. Lows 69 to 73. Then for tomorrow, hot and muggy once again with partial sunshine. However, there will be a few showers and thunderstorms around during the afternoon and evening. Highs 88 to 93. I'm Brian Orzel in the Weather Center.
Sitting in for the vacationing Rush Limbaugh, nationally recognized film critic, political historian, and best-selling author, Michael Nedved.
Welcome to the EIB Network, and I am Michael Nedved, and I am very honored to be sitting at the fabled golden microphone, sitting in for Rush Limbaugh, who, as was mentioned, is on vacation. As you know, I think Rush makes it a policy not to tell publicly where he and Marta are going on vacation, but I think it is safe to assume that they are not at the 4th International Congress on Women at Beijing. They will not be joining First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton there despite any reports to the contrary. As was mentioned in the introduction, I am a film critic, probably best known for that. I've, for 10 years, co-hosted a show on PBS, Sneak Previews. That's PBS, the People's Broadcasting Service. We're going to talk about PBS a little bit later in the show with one of the very few members of an endangered species, conservative producers on PBS, Michael Pack, who has a new show coming out, actually coming out just a couple of weeks from now, called Inside the Republican Revolution. We'll be talking about that a bit later. But, you know, it's amazing to me that given my work as a film critic, not only on public television, but also as chief film critic for the New York Post, I'm regularly reviled as some kind of a dangerous fanatic. I guess that's why I'm sitting in here for Rush. But part of the idea is that I've frequently been attacked in print as a fundamentalist Christian fanatic. Now, is that any way to talk about a nice Jewish boy? I mean, I am Jewish. I've been president of my local synagogue for 17 years. I recently retired from that particular assignment. And it's one of the most peculiar things in the world that whenever anybody talks about decency in the media, about some sense of responsibility, about some sense of balance, about some sense of trying to represent America as it really is, rather than in some kind of fetid, feverish Hollywood fantasy, you're immediately written off as some sort of weird extremist. Interestingly, I once was on a radio show doing an interview with Marlon Maddox, who is very much a right-wing Christian. He would very much describe himself that way. And I mentioned to him my hurt, my wounding, that I was described in the press as a fundamentalist Christian fanatic. And he paused for a moment. He said, "Well, what's wrong with that?" And I guess, you know, one can be called many, many worse things in this society. But other than movies and popular culture, I have over the years been interested in many other subjects. And one of the things I look forward to the next 2 days with you at EIB, where, as you know, the number is 1-800-282-2882. One of the things I look forward to is being able to talk about some of those other interests. Now, not everybody who knows my opinions and my reactions and my work on American popular culture knows that once upon a time, I went to law school. And I went to law school at Yale with Bill and Hillary. And we will be talking later in my sessions with you about what, if anything, Bill may or may not have inhaled. Because I do want to talk about the Clintons at Yale because of a lot of misunderstandings about that exist both on the right and on the left. But in addition to a background in law school, I've also written about a lot of different things, not just motion pictures. I often like to say that I've done 8 books, 4 about movies, 4 about serious subjects. And I did a book called What Really Happened to the Class of '65 that's about my high school class, not about my law school class. And did a book called The Shadow Presidents, which is about the White House staff. And one of my strong interests always has been presidential politics. And here I've got to congratulate Rush for the last week before he departed on his well-deserved vacation, doing a public service by talking about some of the insanity that is out there in the mainstream press about this press for a national third party, some kind of alternative to the supposedly limited field we have. You know, nobody looks at this honestly. What is going on here? Why is it that a majority of Americans now say that they would welcome a third-party candidacy and might support it? Why do we have this restlessness? You know, the conventional wisdom is that we have it because somehow the 2 existing parties aren't representing that great American middle, those people who think the Republicans are too right-wing and the Clinton Democrats are too left-wing. Well, this is absurd. Look at the Republican field. I mean, my goodness, there's something for everybody. If you want in the Republican field someone who is very liberal on social policy, but an economic conservative, there's Arlen Specter for you, who's making a lot of noise. Pete Wilson is liberal on social policy. He's pro-choice. He signed a gay rights bill in California, and yet he's very outspoken on issues of immigration and affirmative action. There are hardline conservatives, ranging from Pat Buchanan to Alan Keyes, who's one of the most eloquent, heartfelt advocates of a pro-life position anybody would ever want to hear. There's everything in there. I mean, including Bob Dornan, including Dick Lugar. Now, his campaign's making a lot of waves, but look, the fact is that in this Republican field, you certainly have a point of view represented. So when people say they're yearning for a third-party candidate, what are they talking about? They start talking about people like Bill Bradley. Now, what appeals to people about Bill Bradley isn't his unique political perspective, which isn't represented supposedly in the... Come on, Bill Bradley's politics, if you look at his voting record, if you look at his positions, is indistinguishable from that other Bill named Clinton. It's the same politics. Mainstream senator from New Jersey. And if you look at Colin Powell, what is inspiring this excitement about General Powell? Is it his politics? Nobody knows what his politics is. I mean, we're not going to find out even when he goes on book tour and starts talking about his autobiography. The fact is that what is exciting to people about third-party possibilities, including, by the way, Mr. Perot, is personality. Now, I don't fully understand why people are excited by Ross Perot's personality. As Norman Ornstein, political scientist, I think has rightly observed, Mr. Perot seems to be flying around without his tray table in a full upright and locked position. But the difficulty here is not that his ideas aren't represented. His ideas, term limits, balanced budget amendment, serious attempts to balance budget, that's all become part of the contract with America. It's mainstream Republican politics right now. No, the reason I think people feel so unsatisfied with the presidential field has to do with the lack of the one kind of personality to which the American people have historically responded best. And that is a candidate of optimism, a candidate of exuberance. I mean, if you look at the Republican field, ranging from Specter all the way over to Buchanan, you got an awful lot of gloomy guys. And that worries me, frankly, because as a political historian, if you look back at every presidential race since the beginning of the media era, the beginning of the radio era with Franklin Roosevelt, every race since 1932, with one exception, the more optimistic, the more warm-hearted, the more exuberant, the more upbeat candidate has won. And it's amazing. If you take a look at Ronald Reagan's victories over Mr. Fun and Mr. Warm for Walter Mondale in 1984, over Jimmy Carter in 1980, a big part of the victory was that Reagan was such an optimist. He was somebody who rejoiced in America and its sense of openness and possibility. And what's interesting about Jimmy Carter is when Jimmy Carter won against Gerald Ford in 1976, Jimmy Carter was the optimistic candidate. Remember that? People used to symbolize Jimmy Carter by his great grin. He was considered to be a Cheshire cat. He was smiling all the time. He was the first candidate who was openly a born-again Christian. And people saw him as the more optimistic candidate, while Gerald Ford was the one who hit people with bad golf shots and fell downstairs, and was seen as trying to handle this horrible, crushing legacy of Nixon. But then in office, Jimmy Carter started talking about malaise and about how negative things were, and he became the candidate of gloom and so-called realism. Reagan was the optimist. Reagan won. Same thing happened with George Bush. Now, George Bush had the good fortune in 1988 to run against Michael Dukakis. And Michael Dukakis is so non-optimistic. I mean, I know basset hounds who are more optimistic than Michael Dukakis. He is not, you know, your fun party, let's look at the bright side kind of guy. This is Mr. Gloom. So naturally, compared to Dukakis, Bush looks very upbeat. But then, when he comes around to run for re-election in 1992, Bush was seen as the guy who had a heart incident while he was jogging, who seemed old, who seemed tired, who unfortunately tossed his sushi all over the Prime Minister of Japan. Whereas Bill Clinton Bill Clinton was warm and upbeat, and he was the man from Hope. That's how they billed him. Even though, by the way, he left Hope, Arkansas when he was a very small boy and spent his childhood in Hot Springs, Arkansas, which is really sort of the Las Vegas, Arkansas, if one can describe it as such. But anyway, Bill Clinton was the man from Hope. He was the one with the great vision and the upbeat sense of America. That's what the American people respond to. And my concern for the Republican field right now is that running against Clinton, we have a lot of guys who cannot capture that sense of hope, of exuberance. Bill Clinton, whatever you want to say about him, and there's plenty that we can say and will say during the next 2 days, but this is a guy of tremendous resilience. In fact, he reminds me a little bit of some of those inflatable toys with sand at the bottom where you sort of knock it down when you're a kid and it comes right back up at you. He is the comeback kid. But running against Bill Clinton, you have a senator like Bob Dole, whose nickname for years on Capitol Hill was Darth Vader. I mean, I know Dole is trying to soften his image and seem a little bit more warm than he once did, but still. And Phil Graham, I mean, Mr. Warmth, Mr. Cuddly, not exactly. Phil Graham's a great public servant. We all owe Phil Graham a debt of gratitude for helping us escape from Hillary Care, from this massive federal takeover of the national health care system. However, Phil Graham as a personality is not someone who is upbeat or positive. I mean, Pete Wilson, my governor in California. I mean, Pete Wilson barely cracks a smile, is a tough old ex-Marine, is not noted for, well, he's not noted for his charisma. In fact, people are talking about the devastating impact of his charisma bypass surgery. The difficulty you have here is that the Republicans who do represent that kind of optimism, Jack Kemp, Bill Bennett, Dan Quayle to some extent, even Dick Cheney, all took themselves out of the running. And that's why with a very able field and a very varied field of Republican candidates, I happen to be one person who's a little bit worried about the race against Bill Clinton. Because when it comes to presidential elections, the American people respond to personalities at least as much as they respond to issues. They love people like Franklin Roosevelt, who even in his wheelchair, even suffering from polio, had that tilted up jaw and a cigarette holder and said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, optimism. The only election, by the way, I mentioned where the gloomier candidates seemed to win was 1968, when the happy warrior, so-called Humphrey, went down to defeat to Richard Nixon. Now, Nixon at that time, remember we were talking all about the new Nixon, and it was supposed to be, this was a guy who could appear on Laugh-In and was warmer and softer. But 1968 was a special year, the year of the assassinations of Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King and the Tet Offensive and riots in our cities. And that was one unique time when maybe looking a little serious, a little tough, a little gloomy wasn't such a disadvantage. I submit that 1996 is different, that we're back to normal, and the American people need and want an optimistic, a hopeful perspective. And it's that perspective that's creating this absurd talk, to me, of a third party, not the lack of a particular perspective on issues. And we will be back with your calls at 1-800-282-2882 on the EIB network. This is Nedved. I'm sitting in, or trying to sit in, for the irreplaceable and indispensable Rush Limbaugh.
You're listening to the EIB network.
You all know how I feel about small business people, entrepreneurs, store owners, sales reps, burning the midnight oil all over the crude plain. You people are the lifeblood of our economy, and that's why I'm so excited that there's finally software designed specifically for you. It's called CashGraph. It's the software that puts everything you need to do business profitably right at your fingertips. Not only checks and deposits, but billing, word processing, customer tracking, time management, charts, graphs, everything in one integrated package. You don't any longer have to juggle different packages of software around, going from one program to the next, because now you can do it all with a single affordable package that is so easy to use, you'll be up and running in minutes. You can spend your time pursuing opportunities instead of reading manuals. Cash Graph teaches you how to make more money, shows you where you're wasting money and how to boost your profit. If you don't have a business, here's your excuse to start one. I'm telling you, you need, and you'll enjoy this software. Get to a telephone and take advantage of the following offer.
You've just heard Rush praise Cash Graph software. Now you can try it on a free trial basis. You pay only the shipping and handling. If you don't love Cash Graph, just send it back and owe nothing. If you run a small business, if you're a salesperson, consultant, entrepreneur, or work out of a home office, call 1-800-617-RUSH now for your free trial copy of Cash Graph. This is not a demo, but the real software, complete with how-to video. Call 1-800-617-RUSH now. That's 1-800-617-7874.
Need furniture? Need credit? Need them now? Waynesboro Furniture has a plan that will answer those questions and more. With special pay plans for those who need it now, including military E1 and up. Contact Waynesboro Furniture and find out how you can get automatic approval and quick delivery without delay. Living room, dining room, bedroom furniture, and mattresses. Buy now, deliver now, and pay later. Get complete details at Waynesboro Furniture, your mattress outlet. 119 North Center Street, downtown Goldsboro.
Great food, great service, and is here to stay at Captain Bob's Seafood. Captain Bob's has been serving the fine people of Goldsboro for over 13 years, and thank goodness some of the best things never change. Like Captain Bob's broiled seafood and steaks, and their great lunch specials every Tuesday through Friday from 11 till 2, and that delicious Sunday country lunch buffet from 11 till 2. Captain Bob's Seafood appreciates your patronage, and they plan to be around for many years to come, but why wait? Come on by now and have some great food at Captain Bob's Seafood, 430 North Berkeley Boulevard, Goldsboro.
Sale price includes application of manufacturer rebates, tax tag, and dealer 129 dock fee or extra. Nobody sells for less. Nobody beats our service. Familiar words? I'm Rick Mondale, General Manager of the Courtesy Dealerships in Goldsboro, North Carolina, and I want you to know that these words are true. Just ask your neighbors and friends. They'll tell you if they haven't already done so. Right now, you will experience savings that are absolutely unbelievable. Imagine purchasing a 1995 Buick LeSabre for only $16,988, stock number CP1733. A brand new 1995 Honda LX Accord fully equipped for only $16,260, stock number GH621. Or a brand new 1995 Park Avenue for only $24,799, stock number CB1092. Bottom line, it is true. Nobody sells for less. No matter what others may say, if you purchase a car or truck, new or used, and don't stop at Courtesy Buick, GMC Truck, Mercedes, and Honda in Goldsboro, North Carolina, you will pay too much. It's true.
This is Michael Nedved sitting in for Rush Limbaugh at the EIB network, where our number is 1-800-282-2882. And after that last announcement, let it never be said that we here at EIB don't pay attention to the vision thing. I also think we should comment on the appropriate advertisement for the Magic in the Cabinet. Yeah, I've been a big advocate of more family entertainment in movies, but this is ridiculous. Now we go to our callers, starting with Dave in Sayville, New Jersey. And Dave, you're on EIB.
Hi, Mike. Dave Murray.
How are you doing?
It seems to me I've noticed something about the third-party candidates. I'd be interested in your comment on it. It seems to me that they share a disinclination to see renewing America as a process. They want it desperately. They want it to be simple. I want someone to tell them, well, Larry, I'll just go down to Washington and I'll fix it.
I think you're exactly right.
It's not simple. It is a very, very complex situation we've gotten ourselves into. And it's going to be a very complex way of getting out of it. And I just don't, it seems to me, in fact, that Bill Clinton ran on that. He sort of implied that there was a big red button on the president's desk that is labeled Fix the Economy, and that Bush wouldn't push that button. But if he was elected, by damn, he would push that button.
Well, he'd not only push the button, but he'd feel our pain.
Exactly.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And frankly, there is a long history of third-party candidates who really are cult of the personality candidates. And that's why what I'm saying before I think is so important to keep in mind. When people talk about the need for a third party, it's no absence of people addressing the issues. Newt Gingrich is addressing the issues as directly and forcefully as any American political leader of the 20th century. You're talking about a revolutionary leader.
Exactly.
Who's trying to do revolutionary change if he'd get the support he needs. The difficulty here is, look back at the history of third-party candidates. I mean, was there a clear national vision articulated by Mr. Perot last time? I don't really think so. But even going back further than that, remember Henry Wallace in 1948? Henry Wallace, by the way, it's interesting, he was a former vice president of the United States. He had been dumped from the ticket by Franklin Roosevelt when Roosevelt ran in '44 because he was considered too liberal. But Wallace was hugely popular. A lot of people thought he would carry a lot of electoral votes, win a lot of states. He ended up getting less than 2% of the vote. Do you know there are two former presidents, actually three former presidents, who've run as third-party candidates in the past and have done disappointingly? You have, most famously, of course, Teddy Roosevelt, who ran as a Bull Moose Party candidate in 1912. And even Theodore Roosevelt, who was arguably the most popular president we've ever had, when he ran as a third-party candidate, and was only 53 at the time, he was still a young man, in 1912, he only got 27% of the vote. Millard Fillmore ran as a third-party candidate in 1856, got even less. Martin Van Buren ran as a third-party candidate in 1844 on the Free Soil Party, got only 10%. Basically, what history shows us is people have sort of a yearning, a yen for a third-party candidate, largely based on personality. But when you actually get there in the voting booth, people are averse to wasting their votes. And I just hope we don't go through in 96 this stupidity we went through in 92, where people say, oh no, our point of view isn't heard, we need a third party, and then they go through this long flirtation, and then of course when the election comes, basically what you have is just a lot of wasted votes and no real, quote, change. The real change, if it's going to come, is going to come through the major parties.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at Perot's basic concepts as much as you can identify them, they certainly fall somewhere between Dole and, say, Buchanan. He would fit into the Republican Party.
Oh, he would. You know, frankly, if you look at it, he's not that dissimilar from Pete Wilson. I mean, he is on a number of issues like NAFTA and issues of isolationism, but basically you're talking about someone who is sort of an unthought-out moderate on social issues and something of an economic conservative. In any event, thank you very much for your call, Dave, and we happen to agree. Coming up, we're going to continue talking about the importance of Congress, the possibilities of third parties, Hollywood, specifically the allegation in New York Magazine this week, is Hollywood too wholesome? We'll deal with all that. I'm Michael Nedved on the Rush Limbaugh program on the EIB network, 1-800-282-2882.
Hi, this is Tony Conza, founder of Blimpie International. People always ask me, Tony, what's the secret behind the great taste of a Blimpie sub? Well, the secret is that there are no secrets. Just a real sub filled with choice ham, roast beef, or turkey. The real stuff. Same goes for the cheese. It's real dairy cheese every time. It's that simple. The real mystery to me is why anyone would ever eat anything else. Blimpie. It's a beautiful thing.
This is WGBR News, Goldsboro's very own.
I'm Bill Justice with Wayne Area News. Visiting members of the North Carolina Board of Economic Development were treated to KC-10 flights, an airlift demonstration, and other activities by Seymour Johnson Air Force Base yesterday in being welcomed to Wayne County to hold a two-day quarterly meeting. Last night at a dinner in their honor, Secretary Dave Phillips told the crowd of about 250 participants it probably was the most exciting day they have had in holding meetings throughout North Carolina. He added praises for Goldsboro and Wayne County, and especially Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, and said, quote, "We have heard about these things for years and understood what you've done, but today and tonight you have driven home just how special you are," end quote. Secretary Phillips said the board is indebted to board member Wes Seegers, who brought them to Goldsboro, and to Seymour Johnson's Brigadier General Lance L. Smith for being the host, and to all of his associates. The Secretary drew another round of applause and saying, quote, "What is so special is you make us proud to be Americans," end quote. Those remarks came after a program in which officers related their experiences in the Gulf War. The Economic Development Board is hearing remarks by the governor today, swearing in new board chairman Bill Lee, who is chairman emeritus of Duke Power Company, and also hearing task force reports on infrastructure, incentives, and competitive technologies. Infrastructure, which is essential to development and growth, is the greatest concern of the North Carolina Board of Economic Development and is being discussed in its quarterly session in Goldsboro today. More from State Commerce Secretary Dave Phillips.
Right now, it's primarily the city's responsibility, the county's responsibility. We feel the state has got to get involved and create a fund, some kind of a fund that can give all the communities in North Carolina access to some major dollars. One idea that we're talking about is a trust fund, like the Highway Trust Fund. It's $1 billion that is spread throughout the state for roads. Well, we need that type money spread throughout the state for infrastructure. And these are not cash incentives. We're talking about water and sewer, things of this nature. And it's pretty basic.
State Commerce Secretary Dave Phillips. I'm Bill Justice with Wayne Area News, a copyrighted feature of New Age Communications.
It'll stay rather hot and muggy through tomorrow. However, a pleasant change is on the way for the weekend as a cold front comes through late in the day tomorrow. This afternoon will be hot and muggy with partly cloudy skies, highs 88 to 93. Partly cloudy tonight with lows in the upper 60s and lower 70s. Partial sunshine for tomorrow. A few afternoon thunderstorms will develop and continue into the evening, highs 88 to 93. I'm Brian Orzel in the Weather Center.
Today, sitting behind the golden EIB microphone, is the author of Hollywood vs. America, The Shadow Presidents, and the Golden Turkey Awards. He's also the co-host of PBS's Sneak Previews. Here is film critic and political historian Michael Nedved, sitting in for the vacationing Rush Limbaugh.
Thank you, and I've got to thank you, Mamone and Bo Snerdley and Kit Carson, for providing that music to make me feel right at home. That music is from Plan 9, from outer space. I'm sure everyone out there recognizes it immediately. A 1959 classic by the great director Ed Wood that my brother Harry and I, who did the Golden Turkey Awards, helped select through the votes of readers around the world as the worst movie ever made. And this, by the way, is a very bizarre thing. We helped to discover Ed Wood. No one really had ever heard of him before, just a bunch of raving, drooling, bad film fanatics. And I really think it says something about the direction of American culture that last year, 1994, one of the best movies was about this worst director of all time, Ed Wood, starring Johnny Depp in his greatest performance. I don't think Johnny Depp has ever before been quite so adequate, but it was a genuinely good movie about a genuinely awful director. But meanwhile, speaking of awful directors, we can talk about awful billionaire potential third-party candidates and potential third parties with Carl from Knoxville, Tennessee. Carl, you're on the EIB network with Michael Nedved.
Hello, Mr. Nedved. How are you?
Very well indeed.
Okay. What I was going to make is I'm a libertarian. I haven't figured out yet how I'm going to vote in the next election. But one of the things that I see as important to people, at least in the third party, they want to be able to understand how the candidates are going to vote when they get elected, either on party principles like the Libertarian Party or through a personal statement of ideals and values. And I think that's one thing that the Christian candidates do give so well. They tell people what they value, and then they make their decisions accordingly. They can sort of people can sort of understand how that they might vote on certain issues. That way they get a predictability factor.
Right. Carl, how did you feel about the contract with America?
I love it. As a matter of fact, except for some social issues, such as the legalization of drugs and the drug war and stuff, I love the contract with America.
Well, of course, a contract with America doesn't take a position on drugs, particularly.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, on the person who introduced it, Mr. Nude, and the Republicans and so forth, I mean, I voted for Bill Clinton, and then I voted for Republicans in the last election because I've been very disgusted with Bill Clinton.
Well, a lot of people did precisely what you did, is switch from Bill Clinton to Republicans in '94. And I think that one of the things that you're raising is the need, which Republicans should hear and listen to, for another contract with America in '96, which has to be proclaimed by the president, presidential candidate, and also by all the candidates for Congress and the Senate, because frankly, that's the way things are going to get done. It's noteworthy that the House of Representatives followed through successfully on 8 of the 10 contract items. They kept their promises. And if you have a president and candidates for Senate and candidates for Congress who all sign on to a similarly binding pledge, I think that's going to create an irresistible tide, provided the right candidate for president for the Republican Party.
I agree. I think Congress and the congressmen and senators are actually as important or maybe more important than the president. The president is the leader, but you've got to have the people in Congress in order to enact the laws and so forth.
And not only enact the laws, at the moment, we are in a unique situation, really in the 20th century, in seeing the leadership, the new ideas, the entire thrust and momentum of government coming not from the legislative side, but from Congress. And, pardon me, not from the executive side, but from the legislative side, from Congress. I mean, Bill Clinton was the candidate of change, and right now his entire role seems to be threatening vetoes and resisting change.
Because, of course, the document of the basic creed of the libertarians is you can do anything you want as long as you don't harm the rights of other people. And every decision flows from that. There may be some disagreements as to where my rights stop and your rights begin, but that's basically one thing that I like about that party. But I can't see voting libertarian because simply you have the electoral vote, and whoever wins the electoral votes wins the election.
Absolutely. And again, I think that most people, including people who have libertarian leanings, and many, many Republicans do, are not going to vote libertarian because that wasted vote is just too tragic. Because otherwise you're going to, if there really were a libertarian conservative split, it's the one way of assuring that Bill Clinton would in fact be reelected. And speaking of that, and speaking of libertarians and not wanting to do anything you want but not harming the rights of other people, there's a press item today that I think deserves comment. It's a truly inspiring idea. This comes from the Associated Press, and the date line is Greenville, South Carolina. And the article proclaims, first there was safe sex. Now at Clemson University, there's safe spending. School officials are urging students to slip condoms over their credit cards to make them think before they charge. The condoms are simple sleeves of paper carrying financial advice. Keep this condom over your credit card, they warn. The few seconds it takes to get the card ready for use can reduce the urge to spend, and then you'll have money to save and invest. Well, what an inspiring idea to illustrate the notion that you can do anything you want in this country, and it will be safe and it will be fine so long as you use a condom. Now, I think credit is due here to Rush Limbaugh, who pioneered the idea of safe talk, safe radio, by putting a condom over the golden microphone some years ago. But I want people to know that today we are working unprotected on the radio. And also, this idea also suggests to me that people who are truly enthusiastic about condom distribution can get together with a gun control crowd. This condoms on credit cards was used at the university level. On the high school level, where guns are such a big problem in so many classrooms, I think we should require anyone who must bring a firearm to school, put a condom on it. Everything will be fine. Next up, in Grand Forks, Missouri, we have David. David, you're on EIB with Michael Nedved.
Hello, Michael. Actually, it's Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Oh, excuse me.
That's all right. I was really impressed with your book, Hollywood versus America.
Thank you.
In terms of your writing skills, I was appalled at the garbage that you reported on. And
me too.
I'd be really interested to hear you discuss the differences between censorship and preventing profane and harmful speech. But I also would like to make some points. I saw Apollo 13, which I think was rated, was it PG?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was.
And that was an enormously popular film. I was distressed that the one major diversion that they took from the truth of that story was in the argument that took place between the astronauts.
Yeah, I think that's an important point that you're making, and I've heard that also. My father actually was involved in the space program, worked for NASA, and knows all these people personally. My father's a physicist, and he's my personal hero, so I've got that out there.
Right.
But in any event, one of the things that people from NASA and from the astronaut program have said that it was a very accurate film, it was very reliable, except for the language that was used by the astronauts. They were military men, they were tightly disciplined, even in a moment of crisis. Jim Lovell said they didn't talk like that. And having said that, I mean, I think that Apollo 13, the language in it is relatively so mild, even for a PG release, that it's hard to fault it. I love the picture.
Truly, it is mild. But what's interesting to me is that they took men of the 70s who had integrity and discipline and turned them into men of the 90s who snipe, attack, and blame each other rather than focus on solving the problem.
Well, not quite, because the men of the 70s, they showed them as two-thirds of the astronaut team that was up in Apollo 13 is very happily married and securely married. And today, of course, I beg pardon?
I said that's true.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things about Apollo 13, about the whole issue that you're raising, this question of language in movies goes to what to me is one of the most important issues, which is when people defend Hollywood, the common line of every Hollywood apologist is, hey, we just give the public what it wants. Don't blame us, blame yourselves. We're feeding the public's desire. The one area where you can prove that that's not the case is with harsh language in movies. Yes, there's a constituency for all kinds of graphic violence in films, a constituency comprised largely of drooling, subliterate, adolescent males, and you know who you are. And however, there is not a constituency demanding F-words in movies. It doesn't exist. I have never once heard of anyone who came out of a theater saying, you know, Mabel, I really like that picture. I just feel frustrated because I didn't get to hear the F-word enough. Nobody thinks like that except for Hollywood executives. And this goes to the point that you were asking before about, David, which is what do you do about this whole thing? I'm opposed to censorship. I don't want the government to get involved. The government can't do anything very well. I mean, delivering the mail is even a struggle. So why do people think that the government can somehow successfully raise the moral tone of American popular culture? It can't and it shouldn't. The decision has to be on the part of people who create this popular culture to be more responsible, to be more responsive, and above all, on the part of the people who consume it. I think that in popular culture, and we're going to talk more about this, we have to move from supply-side solutions to demand-side solutions. To each individual in your own homes, with your own television sets, with your own movie consuming, being a little bit more discerning, more judgmental, more sincere about living the ideals that we all want our kids to live and we want ourselves to live. Next up on EIB Network, after a break, we're going to be taking more conversation about the third party, but at 1-800-282-2882 with Michael Nedved sitting in for the vacationing Rush Limbaugh.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
Yes, my friends, Laredo and Lefty's Salsa. Oh, you may not have heard of it yet, but it's as fun as the name implies. And you're going to have to go into stores and ask for this. It's not guaranteed it'll be on the shelves today. That's what you've got to do. Go ask for it. It's on the way. Distribution has been handled, and it's in the process of sweeping America right now. I could not believe how good this stuff is when I first tried it. Very important to me because I'm on a weight loss regimen. There's no fat. It is thick, rich, hearty, perfect for dipping. All natural ingredients and zero fat. Comes in 3 flavors, hot, medium, and mild. Goes great with just about anything from eggs to baked potatoes to homemade pizza. Don't put it on yogurt, but everything else, it'll be fine. Laredo and Lefty's is growing. Ask for it by name. You'll be glad you did. It is so good. You are going to throw a barbecue just to share it with friends. You're going to proudly say you own Laredo and Lefty's salsa. You're going to show your friends the bottle. You get Laredo and Lefty's salsa. Try it now.
Time for lunch. Oh, man, am I hungry. Good thing there's a Pizza City nearby. Pizza City for pizza, subs, cheese sticks, tossed or chef salads. Oh, make it a great lunch today at Pizza City. Enjoy their lunch special. A medium pizza with cheese and 2 toppings for only $5.99. Or a large cheese pizza with 1 topping for only $5.99. Pizza City with 3 locations. Call the one nearest you. Pizza City, the professional pizza people.
Month after month, Leith Chrysler Plymouth Jeep Eagle, Leith Isuzu blows away the competition. Because price sells cars. It's an indisputable fact. Come to Leith of Goldsboro for the best prices on the best selection. Right now, Leith has a large selection of every Jeep model in stock. And price to sell, prices on the Wrangler and Cherokee have never been lower. Nobody beats the prices at Leith Chrysler Plymouth Jeep Eagle, Leith Isuzu, Highway 70 west of Goldsboro. The undisputed champion of low prices, where price sells cars. You've heard the hype from other furniture stores. Free interest, free financing, and free gifts with your purchase. Well, there's no free lunch. Let Monk's Furniture Warehouse show you where the real deals are. Monk's is one of the largest selections in the area, all priced at everyday low discount prices. Monk's has been serving the area for over 11 years with quality name brand furniture. Get free delivery and shop the warehouse way at Monk's Furniture Warehouse, Highway 70 east of LaGrange, where furniture is their business.
Locks and alarms can't protect your most valuable business assets, you and your key employees. I'm Ed Spence, your Equitable agent in Goldsboro. The Equitable is looking forward to the future with insurance products that protect your business interests, like ways to cover salaries of owners and key employees if they're disabled. What protection's right? Call 735-3630 and ask for Ed Spence. Or stop in at 1507 East Ash Street. It's for your own security.
Welcome back to the EIB Network, where you're speaking with Michael Nedved. I'm sitting in for the vacationing Rush Limbaugh at 1-800-282-2882. And I'm a film critic. I've also worked as a political historian in the past, written books about the presidency and articles about the presidency and the White House. And I'm very eager to speak with you as the week goes on a whole